Hello everyone, Freemantle here. Today I want to talk about the bedrock liberal idea. The idea that drives everything that is distinctively liberal. The liberal's idea of a good society, his politics, his programs and policies, the way he responds to his opposition, his rhetoric, everything. It's easy to spot this idea. For whom does the liberal claim to speak? The helpless, he says, the powerless, the underprivileged, society's victims, and distinguishing himself from his political opponent by saying that he, the liberal, cares about people, he implies that people need caring about. Liberalism has almost no plausibility unless you believe in a sufficiently profound human incompetence. That's the bedrock idea. But the liberal doesn't have in mind the failure of ordinary practical intelligence. Now, the ordinary adult certainly has that. We go to work every day, we do our job successfully, discover how to raise and harvest wheat, prevent polio, fly rockets to the moon. No question that people are up to the productive tasks required for living. It's observable that they are. That means all you have to do is look at the world. Yet the liberal has an extremely low opinion of the ordinary adult when it comes to managing his own life. He believes the average person is gullible, irresponsible, easily swayed. In a word, the liberal believes the average guy is stupid. And a person who's stupid in this way is not going to be good at coming to grips with the challenges of life. He's going to be inadequate. He is inept, unfit for the business of living. Not altogether, but basically, fundamentally, or the word I'm going to use, he is, in the liberal's view, basically helpless. I'm not trying to make points with that word. Think about it. If a person is gullible, irresponsible, easily swayed in a situation, and there's more to the liberal idea, the person is impulsive, he's clouded by passion, he's too lazy to think things through. If a person is all this, he is basically helpless in the situation. If he comes out of it all right, it's going to be because somebody stepped in for him. The liberal believes that the ordinary adult is basically helpless in living life. I'm going to call this the liberal's bedrock belief in helplessness. Now, this is not physical helplessness. The liberal doesn't believe that people are by and large helpless physically, and they aren't. We just went through that. We do our job successfully every day, we grow our food and so forth. It's observable that ordinary people are not physically helpless. That only leaves us to be helpless, from the liberal point of view, in our thinking about our lives. So there are two ways in which an ordinary person might be helpless in the liberal sense. He doesn't know how to figure out what he has to do to improve his life in general, or he doesn't know how to figure out what he needs to do in specific situations. And either way, he can't be educated. When I call this the bedrock liberal idea, I don't mean that if the liberal talks long enough, he'll get around to saying it sooner or later. I mean that his view of the world, of society, of politics is built on it. If you take away the liberal's belief in helplessness, very little remains of his position. But he may never get around to actually stating it explicitly, using the very word. As I say in another video called Ground Rules, when I say liberal, I mean certain ideas. And the bedrock belief among those ideas is helplessness. If you haven't encountered it in those terms or think there are other liberal ideas that are as deep or deeper, try this. When the liberal presents his position, his justification for a program or policy, ask yourself whether it seems like a necessary thing to do if the ordinary person isn't helpless. If the people that the liberal wants to help aren't ordinary, how about other people in the case who are, and who could pass along what they're competent at and so solve the problem without the liberal's contribution? Somewhere along the line, I submit, you'll find that the liberal must believe in a helplessness in people, or he wouldn't be taking the position he does. Now, there's no question that people often act in ways that are harebrained, or stoutly resist what seem to be perfectly good evidence that they should do the thing differently. To be sure, we're not often infuriated by our own behavior. It's invariably the guy next door, next street, next town who's the dumb son of a bitch. But many of us believe that human stupidity is so deep-seated that we quickly pass beyond contempt for it and settle on it as a simple matter of fact. In another video, I talk about campaign financing reform, for instance. If we're good liberals, we don't want the corporations and other big spenders giving what they want to candidates. Because voters, people whose opinions the spending would try to influence, can't handle it. Nor can hamburger eaters, apparently. Several years ago, San Francisco supervisors banned McDonald's Happy Meals, which package a burger, fries, soda pop, and a small toy in a colorful box. Principal consumers of the meals are, of course, kids. The law made it illegal in the city to include a toy with a meal unless the meal conforms to various city government requirements, fewer than 600 calories and so forth. Well, why not? Parents certainly can't be expected to see to it that their kids eat properly, can they? The city supervisors have to do what the parents can't. How can people as inept as that get through life? Barely. But the liberal is either correct or incorrect in believing that the human individual is basically helpless. I mean, either he is or he isn't. It's an ordinary, straightforward, empirical question. We can't just dismiss the liberal's idea that people are helpless because it has dark consequences as it plays itself out. Dark if you want to live your own life your own way. Is he right? I say no. Let's think about it. A person requires certain outside physical circumstances in order to live a good life or improve his life meaningfully. That doesn't show that without those physical circumstances, as a human individual, he is helpless. Physical incapacity of the kind brought on by liquor or broken bones does not show that as a human individual, he is helpless. A given person might need something for a good life that the liberal claims a person needs. But even that doesn't show that as a human individual he is helpless. Not if he can direct himself to what he needs. And that's what I claim. The ordinary adult can use his private resources of thought and action to move himself toward a better life, whatever that may be, and so go on continuously improving it. Physical circumstances permitting, of course. So the helplessness issue comes down to the question of whether an ordinary adult is capable of adequate self-direction. And that comes down in turn to the question of whether the ordinary adult is able to figure out the next best step to take in order to improve his life. I say it's observable that yes, of course we can figure out the next best step to improve our lives. We can look at other people, look into ourselves, at the decisions we make every day, large and small, about the next step to take in a family matter, a choice on the job, a romantic relationship, when to go on a vacation, whom to vote for. We judge the good and bad of things all the time. Select goals, marshal our resources, perform physical movements. We measure the results, we compare them to the results we wanted, and we begin this sequence again. If we fail at any point in this sequence, we correct for it by drawing on our private resources of thought and action. We learn what we didn't know how to do. We choose another aim, maybe. We pull other resources together. We try again and so forth. Of course, we can direct our own lives. We can set goals and achieve them, and where we fail, we can learn, try again, or move off in a new direction if that's necessary. Of course, we are not helpless as human individuals in the way the liberal believes we are. Now, I certainly admit that people who are utterly incapable of purposive activity are helpless in the liberal sense. For example, comatose patients and temporarily unconscious people. But the liberals' belief that people are helpless is not only made about them. Also, people can be incapacitated by ignorance, even to the point of being a danger to themselves, as children can illustrate. But they're not the norm for the helplessness belief either. Liberal society isn't intended mainly for 5-year-old children, comatose victims of auto accidents, and patients in the final stage of Alzheimer's disease. Liberal society is intended for ordinary adults. The case of the ordinary adult is where we have to take on the helplessness belief. Let's think about this a little bit. Scenarios of personal disaster, like the car accident that leaves the driver on life support, or the infirmities of people who are numerically atypical, like kids, figure so prominently in justifying liberal programs that life support type cases may seem to be the main reason behind the helplessness belief. They're not. Because society would not have to be remade, as the liberal demands, in order to accommodate the physically helpless. And it should be remade if basic helplessness is the condition of the ordinary adult trying to manage his own life. If the liberal's helplessness belief sounds plausible at all, that's because it's so foggy. It can seem important until we ask just what is it exactly that the ordinary person is unable to do in managing his life. What blocks him from learning what he needs to know? Why can't he apply what he learns? It's not physical incapacity, because the liberal is talking about the ordinary person, ordinary physically and mentally. No, I say the ordinary adult is capable of directing his own life quite adequately. In fact, I say he's the only person who can do the best job of it, because he's in a position to know things about himself that nobody else can know. For the ultimate authority for the directing of his life, he has no need whatever of other people, inside or outside of liberal community. Here is a sense in which a person may be said to be complete and adequate for life in his own right. The takeaway from today's video: rational self-direction aimed at achieving goals is plain to see in the ordinary adult. It shows that ordinary people are not helpless in the way the liberal believes they are. It shows that basic liberalism is wrong in its bedrock principle that the ordinary adult, in and of himself, is basically incomplete. A fuller version of this video in printed form is available for free download at my Facebook page, facebook.com/pages/Freemantle. Thank you for listening.